head shaved into a mohawk.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And then you have to wear like military style stuff.
And then giant metal studs
Yeah,
everywhere.
the metal studs, and that looks scary.
And the brass knuckles.
And the brass knuckles, yeah.
Yes, just because.
I think
The
we used to scream all the time.
Yeah, they used to.
Every word you say.
All right, so my name is Jeremy Joseph. I'm the Math and Stats Coordinator at Bowling Green State University in the Learning Commons. The Learning Commons is the tutoring center on campus. My boss would kill me if I called it just a tutoring center, but it's the easiest way to describe it. It's really the academic assistance center for everything that you would ever need on campus. She likes to call it the one-stop shop. We did similar to, in the last presentation, Saginaw Valley, correct? They just created a one-stop tutoring center as well. We had multiple learning centers and we combined them all into one a couple of years ago. I'm jumping ahead of my presentation, that comes later. But the purpose behind this, and the description was very vague for a reason, is because I honestly didn't quite know what I wanted to say. But I was thinking about it, and you know, we oftentimes have to shape what we're doing based on what people want. You know, we all have an idea as to how we want to offer help, what we want to say, what we want to do, how we want to help people. But we can do one thing, and if that's not what people want, they're not going to come see us. And so what we're going to end up having to do is tailor things the way we do it to meet what they're going to need. So what are the students actually going to want to see when they show up? What do the faculty expect us to do? What does the president of the university expect of us? And how do we do all these different things and at the same time still try and get across what we're trying to do, what our main goal was in the beginning? Wish I had like a quick thing, but I don't. Okay, so like I said, we started off as multiple centers. I apologize, I know this is the last session. This may get, you know, I won't get boring, I'll promise. I'll be entertaining enough as it is.
Would it bring you joy?
Ooh, what is that? Does it work all the time? Yes. All right. Besides, I like to move and that makes me feel tied down. So.
I understand.
No. All right, so we started off as actually 3 centers. The tutorial center was never actually a center. We had the Study Skills Center, the Math and Stats Lab, and the Writing Center. They all existed in multiple offices, in multiple buildings across campus throughout years and years and years and years. And eventually,
Was me.
eventually we all got into the same building, and now 2 years ago, we actually all moved over to Jerome Library. So, thank you. So we are actually located on the first floor of our library. We were able to commandeer a corner of the library and then barter for more space, and we've already run out of that space. But we've been able to do this and put us into a space where, first of all, students actually know where the library is. They didn't know where we were to begin with. And it's a high traffic area too. The students, maybe they don't use it as a cut through, but they're always in the library for something. And so when we moved into there, they also put in a coffee shop. So there's actually a little convenience store with a coffee shop as well. It just gets, students now have a reason to go there. They came through and they did a video editorial, the newspaper did. And they asked, I was on there and they asked me what was so great about the library now, and I said, you don't have to leave. You can show up, you can eat lunch, you can get some tutoring, you can do your homework. You still have to go to class, and you eventually have to go home and sleep because they aren't open 24 hours, but pretty much you can stay there as long as you want and never have to leave if you don't want to. Yes, I love this thing. All right. So I went ahead, I stole some slides from my boss, so he doesn't know this, but I went ahead and I just put this up here. This kind of gives you an idea as to kind of how our directory is laid out. We've got our boss, Mark, 2 secretaries, 4 coordinators, and then below each coordinator we do have tutors, SI leaders, graduate assistants, depending on the area. I oversee the math and stats area, so I actually have 2 graduate assistants starting next year, and then I'm going to have, this semester I have 42 tutors that work underneath me. Sally is the study skills coordinator, and she oversees the supplemental instruction area. And so she had, what is it, 24 SI leaders, plus coordinates the study skills course that we teach on campus. Donna coordinates all the subject tutoring, which is everything other than math and stats. And then Jason Clevenger is the writing coordinator, and he actually does all of the writing tutoring. And he has, I'd like to say, about 25 writing consultants underneath him. They offer 168 one-hour appointments a week that fill up extremely fast. This is the space we were able to carve out in the library. Does this have a pointer on it? I don't know. Anyways, over here is the computer lab where we do the math and stats tutoring. So we actually have 20 desktop computers in there, and I drug 2 more tables in there, so we have 6 tables. So we have seating for 24, plus the additional 20 computers. We have this computer lab over here, which is actually the office for the graduate assistants. The coordinators and the director of their offices are over here. And then all these cubicles over here, along the outer wall, is actually for our study skills area. So these are for the study groups and one-on-one appointments for all the different subject areas. And the writing consultants meet on these little bullet tables on these concrete pillars. And so they have access to a computer, so that the student doesn't have to print off the paper and bring it in. They can just bring it up on the computer and they can discuss it there. Or if they want to print it off, they can sit at any of these other tables and work that way too. What the writing consultants do is they do not edit. It's always a discussion about how does it sound, what are you trying to say, and how can we get it to sound better. And so they actually like doing the computer because then I'm not writing anything on your paper out of habit, we're just talking. So, some of the most recent things that we've changed, just based on different things that have come across campus. Like I said, we used to be in multiple locations, we're now in only one. We used to be in multiple buildings. Our 3 centers used to have branch campus, or branch locations too. The math and stats had the main location in one building, we had a branch location in the math building, and we had a branch location in the library, and I think there was also a branch in one of the residence halls. Students didn't know where to go. In fact, we closed at 5 in our main location, and from 5 to 8 we were in the library. So at 5 o'clock they would kick everybody out, and at 5 o'clock the library opened so you could go over there if you wanted to. And the idea was, well, nobody shows up late. And I said, it's because at 5 o'clock you kick everybody out, tell them to go over to the new location, and they don't want to walk over there, so now you have 6 people over there and you just kicked out 25. If we stayed open past 5 in our main location, those 25 would have stayed. We expanded our hours, they stayed late. We instituted,
What are your hours?
our hours, we are open 6 to 10 on Sunday evening. Monday through Thursday, we're open from 8 in the morning until 10 at night, and Friday 8 to 5. Every once in a while we get a request for Saturday hours, but it's usually 1 request a semester. Kind of tells you what kind of traffic we would get from Saturday hours. But our busiest time is usually from 4 until 7 in the afternoon. So if we stopped at 5, we would lose all that additional traffic. Our tutor training program, how many people know what the CRLA is? Okay. So for those of you that don't, it's the College Reading and Learning Association. The ITTCP is the International Tutor Training Certification Program. It is a very well-known tutor training program. There's pretty much 2 big ones out there. This is one of them. We're one of the 4 corner institutions in Bowling Green. It's us.
In Ohio.
In Ohio, yeah. Sorry, not in Bowling Green. It's Bowling Green, Ohio, Miami, and Kent State. We were actually the last of the 4 to get a tutor training program through the CRLA instituted. We just recently achieved level 1. Got it certified through the program, we're good to go. But this is something that we were lacking, mainly because we were 3 different centers. Now that we were 1, it was easier to just go ahead and just do this. We've increased our campus collaboration. We've instituted a program that we call study hours, and I'll go over some of these things as we get to the different slides. We have a new tracking software that we use called Academia. We're involved in the Satisfactory Academic Progress, which is a federal funding guideline that has gone through the universities. We also started a new program called Academic Coaching. Some people like to call it like an academic completion coach or an academic completion mentor. And then we expanded our tutoring and SI offers, and we also did an extra tutoring styles, things like that too. So I wanted to talk about all these different things. The tutor training, this is our level 1. If you go to the CRLA website, I believe they publish everybody's application, so you could probably pull it up there anyways. But these are the different trainings that we instituted when we went ahead and did this, and we've got things on, they're all general. Assertiveness, handling difficult students, modeling problem solving, adult learners. It's all about working with diverse populations, all about how to best tutor people. Wow, I just said all that. Okay. Like I said, there are 3 levels. We've just achieved level 1. We're currently in the process of doing level 2. We have, of our tutoring staff, which is about 150 tutors, we have 31 of them that have completed the level 1. And we already have 3 now. There was one on Friday that just achieved level 2. Now level 2 is tentative because we have yet to submit the proposal, but we go ahead and we certify them, and then once we get the official certification, we give them the official certificate then. But according to us, they're level 2, and then once they approve our program, we go ahead and give them the official. By the way, stop me if you have any questions at all, or if you have any feedback. Remember, the purpose of this is trying to just discuss what are some of the things coming up that you have to deal with, and how do we work through these different things to try and best serve the campus. Yeah?
What's the population of your university?
Our undergraduate population is around 16,500. Our freshman class is usually just shy of 4,000.
My question is, politically, how did this fly? I mean, it's a great idea, but
The tutor program?
putting it all together, because I'm assuming your school is unionized, especially.
No, actually.
Had nothing to do with unionization. Nothing to do with unionization. It was actually pushed by the vice provost who came in. We had a new vice provost that came in, and he wanted to have all of the learning and tutoring all in one place rather than scattered all over the university, which is the way.
Oh, it's not a bad idea, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's a bad idea, it's a great idea,
Right.
but I was just trying to figure out how something like that actually gets put into place.
Okay.
It took years. I can't, it didn't happen overnight, but it was, you wanted to move us all over to the library, over to the Jerome Library, when he first started, and then it was a year of discussion about that, and then another year of planning. You saw the footprint of what we have right now. Initially, they were going to give us that one little corner where all the computers are. That was all we were gonna get.
That over there, yeah.
And then, again, another year of discussion. So we're talking several years of back and forth between the people in the library and the planning commission and whatever. So it takes quite a while to get everybody on board for moving this all over there.
Say the only thing probably politically that was a challenge was that each individual center had its own coordinator or director or whatever. They were all considered coordinators at the time. They acted as directors. And so when this was all brought into place, there was a director that was hired and oversees all of it now. And so now I report to Mark Nelson, the director of the Learning Commons. Before, I actually started right after he got hired, but before I would have reported directly to the vice provost then. There wouldn't have been that middle step. Apparently each position also took a little bit of a pay grade deduction then too, because there was that intermediate step now in management. I didn't know the difference. I started after that was created, but anybody that would have been in the position beforehand would have seen that potentially. Speaking of unionization, the only thing that's actually unionized on campus is the faculty, and that just was within the past year or two. Friday they just ratified their contract.
Wow.
That's how we do that. But the administrative staff is not unionized, and the classified staff is not unionized.
Campus collaboration. So some of the big things that we've done. We're getting involved in several different areas. Student orientation, we used to be involved anyways, but since we're now one center, it makes it much easier to be involved. We aren't having to reserve 3 spaces in orientation, we only have to reserve 1. Plus, since we are the tutoring center on campus, people want us to come talk versus, well, do we want the writing center to talk or the math and stats lab to talk, or do we want the study skills center, or all 3? And that's a lot of time to give out. And So which one do I pick? Well, now it's the Learning Commons. We could talk about everything that we can do. Graduate student orientation and new faculty orientation kind of get lumped in together. Our presentation is very similar. It's not necessarily how can we tutor you, but for the graduate students, they might be teaching. And the new faculty, they're definitely teaching. So how can we serve your students and how can we interact with you and what are some services that we can provide to you? How can we best work with you in the classroom? We introduce the SI program to them in those presentations, and if you might have an SI leader, what to expect with that type of program. So how do we put an SI leader in your class? How do you interact with that leader? And then what is the program in itself? A lot of the new faculty and the graduate students have never heard of some of this stuff, and so they don't know how it works. And so this is our opportunity to engage them immediately and explain what we do so that we don't get the backlash a little bit of, well, I don't want you putting an SI leader in my class. Are they spying on me? Or, you know, is the tutor there to try and teach it because I can't? Or, no, it's not that. We're just trying to help students because they don't necessarily learn it the way you're teaching it, or maybe they just need a little extra help, or it's nothing about you. We have a faculty advisory board that was just created a little over a year ago. And what we've done is we've invited faculty members from all the different areas on campus, the bigger ones that we serve. So we've got a general studies writing program, which is kind of your basic English composition. So we've got the director of that. We have the undergraduate coordinator of math. We've got one of the main instructors in the business program. Basically any program that we serve a large population, we invited a faculty member from that program to come be on our advisory board to give us feedback. I mean, we give them information, we talk about what some of our stats are, what are some of the things that we see, what would we like from them, and then we also ask, what would you like from us? You know, give us some feedback. What have you noticed is good, is bad? What's the word on the streets about us? You know, we may or may not get some things, but every once in a while we hear, I heard that if they come to your tutoring center, they will get whatever. Well, that's interesting that you said that. You know, that's a rumor we heard, and well, how do we fix that then? Or if this is true, that's good. If it's bad, you know, let's fix it then. And then we've also started working with at-risk populations, although I think it should say we've extended the work with at-risk populations. There is a population of students on campus that are admitted conditionally, is probably the best way of putting it, and we now have a direct connection to them. They come see us, they have tours that they come see us with, we email them regularly with what services we can provide. The study skills class we teach on campus, the vast majority of them go through that class, which is coordinated through us, and so we give them advertisements about what we can do. We try and get them connected immediately with every piece of academic assistance that they can get. Yeah?
The at-risk population, how big is that?
It's usually about 300 students a semester.
Okay, so it's not huge.
No, it's, I mean, what is that, less than 10%? Yeah, well, yeah, if it's 4,000, so yeah, it's less than 10%. So yeah, it's not huge, but it's a large enough population that you don't want to lose them. And we've seen a little over 50% retention with that population, which is actually pretty good for that population. Because these are students that are admitted because they either have really low GPAs out of high school or really low test scores.
But not both.
Not both.
Because we do have, admission standards.
Yeah.
And you have to have a certain GPA and a certain ACT score to be admitted to Bowling Green. It's not open enrollment, so it's low in one or the other.
Now, some of the other at-risk populations also would be students going through the TRIO programs. So those are ones that are first generation, low income, what are some of the other? Handicap. So these are also considered potential at-risk populations because if you're first generation, you don't have anybody to fall back on for advice potentially. And so we reach out to them in a special way as well. In fact, Student Support Services through the TRIO programs has actually diverted all their tutoring to us now as well. They no longer house tutoring, they asked us to go ahead and do that. Saves them a little bit of money, it increases our tutoring population, and they're just providing additional services on top of tutoring now. The study hours program. What this has done is we're working with the different campus organizations that require study tables. So the Greek units like fraternities, sororities, ROTC, athletics, there's others on campus too that I can't think of right now. But anything that requires study tables, we offered them the opportunity to house it in our location. We have that tracking system that they can just swipe in with their student ID. We keep track of how many hours they're there. Now, we aren't going to monitor their study hours, so we aren't going to sit there and make sure that they're studying, but then again, who did before? But what we're doing is we're giving them the opportunity to come to the Learning Commons, swipe in, they're there. This is the whole idea about leading the horse to water. Well, we brought them there, they saw it. We actually have seen, I think it was a 50 to 60% that once they were there and used study hours, they actually started using tutoring after that. And so they were there, they saw where we're at. It wasn't such a bad place. Maybe I'll ask for a tutor in math next time I'm there. Or maybe I'll make a writing appointment the next time I come in. And so this is another collaboration that we made where we said, you know, here's a service that we're going to institute. It's not hard. In fact, it creates no work on our part because all we're doing is just swiping a card, and that's it. But it created the possibility of gaining in additional students. This was big because, first of all, these units on campus, they were looking for ways to try and do study hours a little bit easier. And they were looking to try and get their units more integrated into academic success. Athletics was looking for a way to cut their budget a little bit. They no longer do tutoring. We now do their tutoring. But what we're doing is we're allowing them to track their hours first as study hours, and then they end up using tutoring anyways. The Greek units, we're helping out their GPA. They're always worried about keeping that minimum GPA to maintain their charter. Well, we're going to let you do your study table hours there. They end up getting tutoring then while they're there, and that counts for study table hours too. So now it's just making that much better. So a couple of the impacts, there was actually a positive and a negative we saw. The positive was attendance went up, awareness went up, and they started using tutoring. The negative is, yeah, we didn't watch them. So they would swipe in, they'd go sit down, open up their laptop, and watch YouTube videos. They probably did that at study tables anyways. So it wasn't any different, but the bad part is that some students in the Learning Commons were watching YouTube videos and that was it. Which maybe gets off the bad impression that that's what people do in the Learning Commons is watch videos. So what we did then was we said you don't have to stay in the Learning Commons, you have to swipe in, we hang on to your student ID, go somewhere else in the library if you want. Go sit in the corner over there, you don't have to stay in our area. Come back, swipe out, and you can leave. They still know where we're at, and they were still coming to get tutoring when they needed it, but then they weren't goofing off in our area, and so then our area was more back to just tutoring. Our tracking software, like I said, we use Academia. All we use is just a card swiper. It's one of those magnetic card readers, and they use their student ID. We have front desk workers. They just swipe the card, and then they have to pick what class are you here for, who's your instructor, what's your service, and services we designated as drop-in tutoring, individual tutoring, the study groups, study hours as a service, and then who's the tutor. And so if you're here for an individual appointment, are you meeting with your tutor, John Smith? Okay, we'll pick that tutor. This helps us out. I mean, it makes our data reporting much better. It makes my scheduling easier because now I can go back and I can look at who was here for math drop-in tutoring. Now I know when to schedule my math drop-in tutors. Because before, I had them just scheduled everywhere and I'd have 6 tutors sitting there with nothing to do, and at other times I'd have 3 tutors working with 40 students. Well, obviously that needed to change. It's getting better now because I'm able to use the data we've collected to try and make it better. So, for those of you unfamiliar with Academia, here's some examples. That one's terrible. As to some of the things you can get. So here's a report of just some of the visits by day. This gives you an idea as to like traffic that we've been getting. You can run a report based on classes. So this is our introduction to statistics class and the students and how many visits they had. And this was just in a 1-week period, but you can change the range of days to anything you want. Attendance summary report. This is just back when we had centers. This was just for the Math and Stats Tutoring Center for a whole week. And by service as well, we could limit it down to this was placement testing. So we did math placement tests if they needed to take a test to try and place into a different course. Again, this just helps us. We can report things out, tell people who was here, who wasn't. The faculty member contacts us and says, our student is doing really bad, and they said they've been coming to the tutoring center every week, all semester. What's going on? Why aren't they learning anything? what's their name? Okay, let's punch it in, look it up. According to our records, you know, they've never been here. Or they've been here once and they were here for 10 minutes. I encourage them to come back. Or, you know, they've been coming consistently at this time, and we figure out who the tutor was that they were working with. Maybe there's a bad match there, and we can hook them up with somebody new. But that's the kind of the advantage here, is that we've been able to track down things like that and make better pairings. Again, this works well with the faculty because they've been able to contact us now, and again, increases that communication. They can now ask us questions, and we can give them quick responses. We used to do paper and pencil, and they would fill out on a log, and you'd have to go back through the log and keep flipping through. This makes it so much faster.
So you had about, for 6 months, you had about 10 visitors for math and statistics?
For this? This is just for the placement test.
Oh, it's.
So it was a computerized placement test that students would come in to take to try and place into certain classes. For the actual math and stats tutoring, I wish I actually had that data now. In fact, Sally told me I should write that down and bring it in, but.
So within your center, you also do the placement test?
Yes.
Okay.
We actually went to an automated placement testing now, where we take the student's GPA from high school and their math ACT score, and there's a formula that the math department created that they take those two numbers and it gives you your placement that way. And then if students wish to challenge that placement, they can come take the test. We usually get about 20 to 25 a semester that want to challenge that placement, and that includes over the summer when students are just doing their first enrollment during orientation, that they don't like their automatic placement and they want to challenge it. Now their automatic placement just says the highest class they can start off, and so if they get placed automatically into calculus, and they say I don't want to do that, they don't have to take calculus, they can start in college algebra if they want. But if they place into college algebra, they can't start any higher than that.
Right.
The Satisfactory Academic Progress was another collaboration we made with Student Financial Aid. This was basically off of the federal mandate that students have to be progressing at a certain acceptable level throughout college, which means they have to have a certain GPA. They can't be taking a bunch of courses just because they feel like it, and they have to be passing a certain percentage of the courses that they do take. If they don't meet those 3 stipulations, the federal government said, we will not continue to fund them with student loans. And so, Student Financial Aid cuts them off. The Satisfactory Academic Progress, students can appeal this. And if they appeal it, they can be granted an appeal, and one of the options, or one of the mandates that the students have to do, is come to the Learning Commons for tutoring. Well, a lot of times, students aren't in the boat where they're meeting this and they've got 200-some credit hours and they just haven't graduated yet. It's that they have a GPA of 1.9 and they probably need to come see us. And so the mandate is go to the Learning Commons at least 3 times. And so they'll come in, they'll say, I've been told by Student Financial Aid I just had to come see you. We usually fix them up, first of all, with somebody to talk about study skills. We don't say, oh, you have a math class, go see the math tutor. Let's talk about study strategies first. It gave Student Financial Aid a way to try and put a little bit more meat behind just the appeal and saying, well, just try harder. But now try harder and show us that you're trying to do something too. If the students don't come to the Learning Commons, Financial Aid knows. If they do, and they didn't meet the GPA that they needed or anything else, at least it showed that they tried and they can appeal again and get another appeal granted. Because they followed through, they came to the Learning Commons, they tried really hard, they're showing a need or a want to actually do more, and so they're willing to give them another chance. Again, this has increased our population a little bit, but what it did was it just filled another need, and it's addressing this population of students that either is just not succeeding, or for the few that just are taking way too many classes and have enough credit hours for about 4 bachelor's degrees by now, that are just lost and don't know what to do. We can kind of guide them towards what they need to do. Maybe they need to meet with an academic advisor, but we can also kind of help them towards, you know, you probably have a degree in there somewhere, figure out what it is and take your last class and graduate. Your parents will love you for that. So what do we do with SAP? We reach out to every student. So financial aid actually sends us a list of these students at the beginning of the semester, and they say, these are the ones that have been told they need to come to you this semester. We email them all immediately. Invite them to the Learning Commons. We tell them where we are, what we do, how to get there, what do they need to bring, all of our different services. We also then run a report, I think it's 3 or 4 different times throughout the semester, giving financial aid progress. Of those students, these are the ones that have attended and how many times they've come. So that they know that, okay, yeah, you went 3 times, but you went 3 times in the last week of the semester. Why didn't you start off in week 3? You were told before the semester started you needed to go 3 times. Plus, financial aid can start pressuring them more. We can continue to email them, you should come, you should try us out, things like that. And again, like I said, if they need to appeal it again, we have proof that either they did make the effort and did come and try and get help, or that they made no effort, in which case that really hurts their appeal. But this is easy, it's a free service, you just have to show up. And that's one of the big things too. Students don't have to pay for this. Well, they do, it's in their fees, so they've already paid for it, but they don't have to pay anything extra. Just show up. Academic coaching, like I said, some places call this an academic completion mentor or a leader. These are students that are trained just with study strategies. They're trained to work with students with special needs. A lot of these students are faculty or trained by the faculty of the Intervention Services Program. So they were people that want to be special ed teachers. These are all the different things that they work on. So study strategies, time management. They work one-on-one for an hour. They do to-do lists, they do mapping exercises. Basically, what does this student need to succeed? And this is a new program that we just started this semester. It was not something we had before. I think actually the study skills people would work on this before. But these are people that have received special training with special ed that actually can work with these students. And this program was initially designed to work with students that were enrolled through disability services, but we went ahead and expanded it out. We said, you know what, let's offer it to everybody. We're not going to limit the population. First of all, that might label people. If I have an academic coach, that means I'm through disabilities. So now it's to anybody. And we get people that email us and want help because they have so many homework assignments and they don't know how to prioritize their time and they're falling behind. Cool, we'll set you up with an academic coach. We can work out a study plan for you and we can work out time management so that you can get through your work. We also have people that say, I don't like school, I don't like homework, what do I do? Well, okay, we'll work with you and we'll figure out what we can do, but I mean, these are students that, again, we could potentially lose. That's important to admissions. They don't want to lose these people, they want to keep them. And so we're instituting these programs, we're getting the funding to do these programs because we're saying this helps with retention. Then I put a link on there, which I think all this stuff ends up going online anyways, but it's a link to our request. Students can fill out a request and they can say, what is it specifically I need help with? And it's an open comment box. What is it you're struggling with? We don't give them options because we don't want to limit what you have to say. It's amazing what students put. Sometimes they're very specific. I need help with time management skills and I need to work on mapping out assignments. Who would have thought they would have ever written that? If you give them choices, they might not have picked that, but they actually wrote it, or I'm bored in class. Well, let's figure out how to make you less bored in class. And it could be that they just don't know how to study for that class, so they're not engaged. Expanded SI. So, for those of you that maybe were in the presentation right before lunch that Kelly Keith ran, she actually is the SI supervisor. She's a graduate assistant that Sally employs. And she talked about how we offered SI with 11 SI leaders in just 4 courses when she took over back in fall 2011, and we now have 24 SI leaders in 11 courses. And so we've expanded it out. And it's been all based off of faculty requests. I mean, we went out and we searched for courses that were historically difficult, failure rates of 30, 40, 50%. In fact, the 2 math courses that we served still have failure rates of over 40%. I can only imagine what they would be if we weren't in there, though. And so, back when I was an SI leader, which was back in 2003, we used college algebra and calculus 1, and that was it. And then we expanded out to do just pre-calculus, calculus 1, and a computer science course. And then I left the program in 2006, I was graduating as an undergrad. I came back into my position now, and we've definitely expanded out. Some of the ones right before we moved into the Learning Commons was pre-calculus, calculus for business majors, and then calculus, physics 1, and computer science. And now we also added geography, which is a weather and climate class, and then there's a food and nutrition class that people going into nursing programs have to take. That was our very first semesters of the Learning Commons, we added those. And now recently we've added a chemistry class, biology, and also introduction to sociology. Introduction to sociology is not a hard class, but you have to read and you have to pay attention. You have to think. And so what we run into is students take it and they don't know how to think. So we're working on group activities. In fact, a lot of the group activities Kelly presented were ones used in that class. You know, here's a beach ball, let's throw it around, answer questions, let's do some compare and contrast and matching and just get up and move around. And they just need that because they're in a lecture hall with 300 other people and they aren't engaged in the class. And so we expanded out to that one class, made a huge difference. So, like I said, faculty requests, and also they were historically difficult too. But the faculty members have started coming to us saying, my students are doing bad and I don't know why. And I heard SI helps. Can you give us an SI leader? And back in the day, it used to be, sure, how much money you're going to give us because we don't have the funding to do it. The university, now with the retention push, has said, here's money, take it. By the way, you have funding now for the next 2 years. Guaranteed you're going to have SI, because it used to be semester to semester and nobody knew. And so we were told day one of the semester, start SI. We want you to have SI this semester. Oh yeah, we've got to go out and hire people now the first week of classes. Now we know previous semesters, we now know for the fall, we're going to have SI and we're going to have it for the following classes. We're doing interviews the past couple of weeks. We're actually getting ready to offer contracts for the fall. We're set and ready to go. Upper administration has been pushing for this. They want the retention numbers up because the state of Ohio changed funding. We now get funding based on the number of students that complete their degree, not the number of students in the college. And so we still get tuition for everybody that's there, but if you don't complete, we don't get the state funding part of it. And so now we really want to get them through. And we want to get them through in 4 years because I think you get a little bit more if they actually complete on time. Math and stats, my area, my passion, my love, was all drop-in. Still mostly is drop-in. But it was all drop-in and it only went through calculus and it only covered the 1,000 and 2,000, well actually just the 2,000 level statistics courses. Nothing with the upper level, but they had a list online of some of the tutors that were willing to work by the hour if you wanted to hire them for anything that was too advanced. It was just in a classroom. And so it was kind of a small condensed area, and the tutors really didn't have a lot of resources. I mean, they had chalkboards, they had paper and pencil, and they had these little small, like, whiteboard things that were about like that big that they could carry around and write on, that eventually got destroyed and mangled up, and they weren't very good. So we moved over to the Learning Commons. First of all, we got a much bigger space. We had that big computer lab, so it opened it up. I added in Calculus 2. Mainly because I think 75% of the current tutors that were employed had taken Calculus 2 already, and they all had gotten an A. So they knew how to do it. I just forced them to do it. I said, you know what you're doing, just do it. They were a little shocked by that. They said, well, what do you? I said, no, Calculus 2 is really hard. Students that have to take it say it's the hardest calculus they take. They get to Calc 3 and they're thankful they made it to that class because it's so much easier. So let's help them through this class that they struggle with rather than saying, sorry about your luck, go away. We increased it up to do any level statistics courses. So I have graduate students that are statistics majors that help out with even the 4,000 level stats classes. And this is again during our drop-in hours. Again, I didn't want to turn anybody away, but you know, there's certain hours while we're open that if this tutor's here, come see them. The upper level courses that are even beyond some of that, again, there's certain hours that certain tutors are there that they can help you. Or we'll set up an appointment. You don't have to pay. You don't have to go out and hire a private tutor. If you want help with your Introduction to Real Analysis 1, I've got 2 tutors on staff that can do that class When would you like to meet with them? Let's set up an appointment. You can meet every week for an hour and you can sit down and talk about the class. You don't have to go pay them by the hour to do it. I'm more than happy to help. Now, in the previous slide, I skipped over it, but there was a math specialist that used to meet with all the remedial course students. We don't have that position anymore, but those students have actually, the course has been restructured and is now self-paced. It used to be taught 3 days a week in the classroom, and now they do it all from my math lab, and they just go at their own speed. And so that actually isn't a huge need anymore, although probably would be nice for those students, they could come in and meet with somebody individually and just talk about the class.
Which classes do you do that with?
It's math 90 and 95, it's elementary and intermediate algebra. So it's really the ones that are not for college credit.
Does anybody else use My Math Lab? Do you use that?
We have a really similar
Yeah.
setup, like our setup is really similar to yours.
Okay.
Ours is 081 and 082, it's basic math, and like pre-algebra and algebra that we do self-paced. Because we actually give credit for it.
We're going to have a math and Korean starting.
We are having a limited one.
Are you?
A limited one.
That was a new concept for me.
Yes, we went to some. I'm not sure if we're ready to call it important, but basically it's.
Some of the other things that we added, and I went ahead and I actually have a bi-weekly meeting with my math tutors, and I said, hey, I'm giving a presentation, how would you like to contribute? And I said, tell me some things that you've noticed that you like. The rolling whiteboards, they love those things, because they've got this big giant whiteboard that they can roll anywhere in the room and use, and then they can write out the problem, and then just leave it there too, and go grab a new one and roll it somewhere else and use that. We've got one of these tables. They're extremely expensive, so I think we may only get the one. But we found that one in a storage bin on campus. And so we confiscated it, stuck it in the math area. Students sit down at that table first. They want that table because the little middle thing is a whiteboard that spins. And so they can write on it, turn it to the tutor, what do you think? I don't know, what do you think? You know, good for group work too.
They don't get ink all over themselves.
No, because this area over here is still a table. I don't want one that's all a whiteboard, because yeah, then you'd end up with marker all over yourself. But this one's nice because
That's
it's
what they
just
have
a
at Green Valley in their math,
Ooh.
just big whiteboard tables.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, then I will.
That table itself right there, I think was $1,500. I don't know why, but, so something tells me that's the only one we're getting. I do exam study sessions before all the big common exams. So College Algebra 1, College Algebra 2, the Business Calculus, and the Pre-Calculus. These are all coordinated classes. They have about 400 or 500 students in each one throughout multiple sections, and they all have an exam at the same time in the evening. So 2 days before the exam, I have a 2.5-hour review session. They come in, they work in groups. I've got 4 or 5 extra tutors in there, walking around, just willing to answer questions. Get in groups, talk. I send out a weekly email to all the students in there, or sorry, all the students that come in and visit us. Give us feedback. What do you think? So tell me your opinions. And one of the questions on there is, what was your expectation when you came? What did we do, and did we meet, exceed, or not meet your expectations, and how so? Because that part to me was, if you showed up, what did you expect us to do? And what did we actually do? So that I know, you know, were your expectations unreasonable? Or were they something that we should be doing that maybe I should look at trying to change? Some people said, oh, you're asking for trouble with that question. No, I'm not. I just want to know, what did you want us to do? Because if you wanted us to do something and it's something I can do, I'm going to do it. I changed it and I added in small study groups. We didn't used to do that. It was all just drop-in. So now students can come in and work in groups of 2 or 3 with a tutor in the room. We changed it to almost like a very small SI section. The tutor sits down and just talks and makes the students go up on the board and work it out and correct each other's problems and just talk. And I said, if you never get up off that seat and keep your feet up on the table, I'm happy. I'm paying you for an hour to never get out of your seat, but to make them work and get them engaged and to learn. Tutors love it. I don't blame them. Get paid for an hour sitting down. And then, this past summer, so the summer of 2012, we actually did a little bit of online tutoring for a statistics course in the fire administration program. That one was a challenge. We learned one thing, Skype doesn't work very well when you're trying to do online tutoring in math. Because he used the laptop, he wrote it on the board, and then he took the computer and went like this across the board, and do you see what I'm talking about? Sure, it didn't work very well, but it was worth a try. We're still kind of tinkering with different ways to try and do this a little bit better, but at least we tried it out. We're actually working with, Illuminate is the one that we're going to be picking up, I believe, and I'm going to try it out again in the fall with math and try some more things.
I have a question.
Yeah.
With that email evaluation, what's your response rate? Like, how many students actually respond to that?
100%. No, I'm kidding. It's, oh gosh, I narrow it down to just the people that come in for math, which is around 180 to 200 a week.
Okay.
I usually get back about 10.
Yeah.
But we also do paper and pencil ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we get a whole lot better response for that.
We usually take a couple weeks in the middle of the semester and we ask for paper and pencil evaluations and they fill those out. And yeah, we get a much better response on that.
Yeah.
But the email was just, just give me some feedback. And then I noticed that I was getting feedback from the same students every week about the same tutors. And they were, my tutor is the most amazing person in the world and you should give him a raise. And so I said, did you fill this one out for them or prompt them? No, yeah.
Yeah.
But sometimes we get, I sat there for an hour and nobody would help me. Well, now I can go back and I can look what time were you there, who was working with you, and try and figure out the problem. Because what was happening was I was getting those complaints at the end of the semester when I couldn't do anything about it. Now I'm getting them almost immediately.
Yeah, because the way we do it now is we do one 2 weeks out from the end of the semester and then one right after exams. So I'm just wondering how that weekly was working out, if we were getting actual responses or not.
We do. The writing coordinator actually sends one out every day.
Okay.
Based on the people that came in for their sessions the day before, he sends out an email to all those people every single morning. And then he gets 4 or 5 a day. So I mean, they're a little bit better, but he doesn't get huge responses either.
Yeah.
Because one of his responses is that if it's a fun, if the session was okay,